Kevin Hart stood in line at a McDonald's in downtown Los Angeles, wearing a baseball cap pulled low and sunglasses to keep a low profile. But Kevin Hart, being Kevin Hart, couldn't exactly go unnoticed. His signature energy seemed to radiate off him, and even in casual clothes, his swagger was unmistakable. He tapped his foot to the rhythm of the overhead pop music, his eyes scanning the brightly lit menu hanging above the counter. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The smell of crispy fries and sizzling burgers wafted through the air, triggering his appetite. He wasn't just here to grab food. Kevin had been working on a project all day and was in desperate need of a cheat meal. "All right, Kev," he muttered to himself. "You've earned this." The line inched forward, and just as he began mentally rehearsing his order, he caught the faint sound of giggling behind him. He glanced over his shoulder but saw nothing unusual. Just two teenage boys standing a few feet back. They were dressed in hoodies and jeans, looking like your average high school kids. But something about their demeanor caught Kevin's attention. They weren't just chatting, they were whispering, and every now and then one of them would look up at him and quickly glance away, trying to act nonchalant. Kevin's ears perked up. He couldn't make out what they were saying, but the boys' hushed tones and stolen glances told him one thing. They knew who he was. This wasn't an uncommon occurrence. Kevin was used to being recognized. Sometimes it led to a quick selfie, other times a long, awkward conversation with a starstruck fan. But there was something different here. The boys weren't approaching him, weren't asking for a photo. Instead, they were staying just close enough to whisper. Kevin turned back toward the counter, pretending not to notice. Maybe they're just nervous, he thought. Let it go. But as he stepped closer to the front of the line, their whispering became more urgent. He could catch fragments of their conversation now. Words like short and funny floated through the air. Kevin arched an eyebrow. He wasn't sure whether to laugh or feel annoyed. As the cashier called out, "Next, please!" Kevin stepped forward, but he couldn't resist glancing back again. This time, he caught one of the boys mid-sentence. "You think he's gonna—" The boy stopped short, his eyes widening as Kevin's gaze met his. Kevin gave him a pointed look, the kind of look that said, "I heard that." Turning back to the counter, Kevin ordered his meal, a Big Mac, large fries, and a Coke. He'd barely finished his sentence when the whispering started again. His patience was wearing thin. "All right," he muttered, grabbing his receipt and stepping aside to wait for his order. He could feel the boys' eyes on his back, their whispers now almost frantic. Finally, curiosity got the better of him. Kevin spun around, his arms crossed over his chest, and gave the boys his best "what's up" face. "All right, you two," he said loudly enough for everyone in the small restaurant to hear. "What's so funny?" The boys froze, their faces turning red as ketchup packets. One of them nervously scratched the back of his neck, while the other stared at his shoes like they'd suddenly become the most interesting thing in the world. Nothing, man," the taller boy stammered. Kevin wasn't buying it. "Nothing? Really? 'Cause y'all been whispering since I got here. You think I can't hear you?" He shook his head, his voice tinged with playful irritation. "Look, I'm short, I know. I'm funny, I know that too. But what's the deal? You trying to roast me or something?" The shorter boy's mouth opened, but no words came out. His friend nudged him, and finally he blurted, "We were just saying, you're Kevin Hart, right?" Kevin's eyebrows shot up. "You don't say! What gave it away? The face, the voice, the fact that I'm standing here clearly trying to mind my business and order some food?" His tone was dripping with sarcasm, but his grin softened the sting. The taller boy stepped forward, his hands shoved deep in his hoodie pocket. "No, man, we weren't trying to be rude or anything. We just, we're big fans. We were just wondering if you do one of your bits." Kevin blinked, taken aback. "You want me to do stand-up? Right here, in a McDonald's?" Both boys nodded enthusiastically, their initial shyness melting away now that Kevin had engaged them. The shorter boy piped up, "Yeah, man, just something funny. You're the funniest guy ever!" Kevin rubbed his chin, pretending to consider it. "So, let me get this straight. You're telling me you came all the way to McDonald's, not for the fries, not for the nuggets, but to get a free comedy show? You're trying to make me work on my cheat day?" The boys laughed, and Kevin couldn't help but chuckle along. All right, he said, holding up a hand. "But just so we're clear, this is a one-time thing. Next time, y'all better have tickets to one of my shows." He cleared his throat dramatically, stepping into the center of the room like it was a stage. The other customers turned their heads, some pulling out their phones to record. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to McDonald's Comedy Hour, starring me, Kevin Hart. he announced, drawing a round of cheers and applause. Kevin launched into an impromptu bit about the struggles of eating fast food as a celebrity. You know, people think it's all glamour and caviar when you're famous, but let me tell you something. Even Kevin Hart needs a McFlurry every now and then. But the real challenge? Trying to eat it without some kid yelling, "Hey, it's the guy from Jumanji!" while his mom tries to take a selfie mid-bite. The room erupted in laughter. Even the employees behind the counter were grinning, pausing their work to watch. Kevin kept going, riffing on everything from the size of McDonald's straws, "Why do I feel like I'm drinking through a pool noodle?" to the mystery of why the ice cream machine was always broken. By the time his order number was called, Kevin had the entire restaurant in stitches. He grabbed his tray with a flourish, bowing theatrically as the crowd applauded. Thank you. Don't forget to tip your cashiers and try the apple pies." As Kevin made his way to a booth, the two boys approached him again, their earlier nerves replaced with excitement. "Thanks, man," the taller one said. "That was awesome. You're the best." Kevin grinned, taking a sip of his Coke. "No problem, fellas. Just remember, laughter's free, but next time y'all owe me some fries." They laughed and headed back to their table, leaving Kevin to enjoy his well-earned meal. As he took his first bite of the Big Mac, he couldn't help but smile. Moments like these reminded him why he loved what he did. Not just the big shows and sold-out arenas, but the simple joy of making people laugh, even in the most unexpected places. For Kevin Hart, a trip to McDonald's wasn't just about grabbing a burger, it was about connecting with people, sharing a laugh, and turning an ordinary moment into something extraordinary. And as he sat there savoring his cheat meal, he knew one thing for sure: he wouldn't trade it for the world. Kevin Hart settled into his booth, the warm glow of McDonald's lights reflecting off the glossy tabletop. His Big Mac sat proudly before him, flanked by a towering carton of fries and a large Coke. He felt a deep satisfaction. This was his reward after a long day. A rare moment of indulgence in his otherwise hectic life. The whispers from the two boys still echoed faintly in his mind, but he was in his element now. The impromptu comedy session had filled the air with a buzz, and he could hear snippets of conversation around the restaurant, people still chuckling about his jokes. As he took a bite of his burger, Kevin's ears picked up on another voice, this time from the booth behind him. A woman, probably in her 40s, was talking animatedly to someone. "You know, I always tell my kids humor can change the world. That Kevin Hart, he's living proof. He's out here making people smile, even at McDonald's." Kevin smirked. He didn't mind being overheard, especially when the praise felt this genuine. The woman continued, her tone now softer, more reflective. "It's just rare, you know, to see someone who can laugh at themselves and make everyone else feel good too." Kevin found himself pausing mid-chew. She wasn't wrong. Humor had always been his armor, his way of breaking through life's barriers. But in moments like these, it became more than that. It became a bridge connecting him to strangers who, for a fleeting moment, felt like family. Across the restaurant, a young couple approached cautiously, a baby balanced on the mother's hip. Kevin spotted them before they even said a word. "Uh-oh, here we go," he thought, grinning to himself. Sure enough, the father cleared his throat nervously. "Hey, Mr. Hart, sorry to bother you while you're eating, but we're huge fans. Could we grab a quick picture?" Kevin wiped his hands on a napkin, laughing. "Man, y'all couldn't wait until I finished the fries." He stood up anyway, his easy smile putting them at ease. "Come on, let's do it, but I'm warning you, if the baby starts crying, it's not my fault." The couple laughed and the father quickly snapped a selfie, baby and all. As they thanked him profusely and returned to their table, Kevin couldn't help but shake his head in amusement. "Man, I should have asked for royalties on that photo." He sat back down, ready to dive into his fries, but the moment of quiet didn't last long. A group of teenagers had now gathered near the soda machine, clearly working up the courage to approach him. Kevin caught one of them pointing in his direction, and before long, they were walking over as a group. "Excuse me, Mr. Hart," one of the teens began, her voice trembling slightly. "We just wanted to say we love your movies. Central Intelligence is like the funniest thing ever." Kevin leaned back, pretending to size them up. "Central Intelligence, huh? Y'all only like me when I'm hanging out with The Rock? What about my other movies? Ride Along? Jumanji? Night School?" The teens laughed, and one of them piped up, "Those are great too. But you and The Rock? Unstoppable." Kevin nodded, a mock-serious expression on his face. "All right, I'll let that slide. Y'all got good taste." He paused, then added, "But I'm telling Dwayne you said that. He's gonna make me do extra push-ups for this. The teens erupted into laughter and Kevin gave them a quick fist bump before sending them on their way. As they walked off, he couldn't help but marvel at how easily humor could dissolve barriers. It was like an unspoken language, a universal connector. Just as he was finishing the last of his fries, another unexpected voice chimed in, this time from a man seated a few booths away. "Hey Kevin, what's it like being recognized everywhere you go? Doesn't it get exhausting?" Kevin looked over, surprised but not annoyed. The man seemed genuine, his question more curious than intrusive. Kevin took a sip of his Coke before answering. "You know, man, it's a blessing and a curse. Don't get me wrong. I love my fans. They're the reason I get to do what I do. But yeah, sometimes you just want to grab a burger without turning it into a meet and greet, you know?" The man nodded thoughtfully and Kevin continued. "But at the end of the day, it's all about perspective. If people recognize me, it means I've made an impact. It means I've done my job right. And that's something I'll never take for granted." The man smiled, raising his drink in a silent toast. Kevin raised his Coke in return, appreciating the shared moment of understanding. It wasn't often that he got to reflect on his journey with complete strangers, but tonight felt different. The energy in the room was light, almost magical, and Kevin found himself savoring it as much as his meal. Before long, a McDonald's employee approached him, holding a small paper bag. She looked nervous but determined, her hands gripping the bag tightly. "Mr. Hart," she said softly, "I know you didn't order this, but we wanted to give you some apple pies on the house. Just thank you for making us laugh tonight." Kevin's eyes widened in mock surprise. "Apple pies for free? Y'all trying to spoil me now?" He took the bag with a gracious smile. "Thank you. Seriously, this means a lot." The employee beamed, and as she walked back to the counter, Kevin leaned back in his seat, the warmth of the gesture sinking in. It was moments like these that reminded him why he loved being Kevin Hart. Not just the fame or the fortune, but the genuine connections, the laughter shared with complete strangers. As he unwrapped one of the apple pies, a sudden thought struck him. He stood up, pie in hand, and clapped his hands loudly. "All right, everybody, listen up!" The restaurant fell silent, all eyes on him. "Before I head out, I gotta say something." He paused, letting the anticipation build. "Y'all are the real MVPs tonight. You came here for burgers, fries, maybe a Happy Meal or two, and you ended up with a whole comedy show. And you didn't even have to pay extra. Now that's what I call a value meal." The room burst into laughter and applause, and Kevin gave an exaggerated bow. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Just kidding, I gotta hit the gym tomorrow to work off this Big Mac." As the laughter died down, Kevin gathered his tray and trash, heading toward the exit. But before he could leave, the two boys from earlier ran up to him one last time. "Hey, Mr. Hart, before you go, can we ask you one more thing?" Kevin raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What's up?" The shorter boy hesitated, then asked, "Do you ever get nervous? Like, when you're about to perform in front of a huge crowd?" Kevin's expression softened. It was a question he hadn't expected, but one he was happy to answer. "All the time, man," he said honestly. "It doesn't matter how many shows I've done or how many people are in the audience. That little bit of nervousness, it's what keeps me sharp. It's what reminds me I care about what I'm doing." The boys nodded, their faces serious. Kevin continued, "But here's the thing. Nerves aren't a bad thing. They're just energy. You can let them freeze you up, or you can channel them into something great. And trust me, when you push through that fear, that's when the magic happens." The taller boy grinned. "Thanks, Mr. Hart. That's really cool." Kevin gave them a fist bump, then pointed at them playfully. "All right, now go do something amazing with that advice. Don't let me catch y'all slacking." As the boys ran back to their table, Kevin finally made his way out the door, stepping into the cool night air. He took a deep breath, the city sounds blending into the background. Tonight had been unexpected but perfect in its own way, a reminder that life's best moments often come when you least expect them. Climbing into his car, Kevin glanced back at the glowing McDonald's sign one last time. He chuckled to himself, shaking his head. Only Kevin Hart could turn a burger run into a full-blown comedy show. With that, he started the engine and drove off, the taste of apple pie still lingering on his tongue and a renewed sense of purpose in his heart. Kevin Hart drove through the bustling streets of Los Angeles, the city lights twinkling like scattered stars. The night had taken an unexpected turn, and as he thought back to the impromptu comedy show at McDonald's, he couldn't help but laugh. His life was a constant series of these unplanned, quirky adventures, and that was exactly how he liked it. As he navigated the streets, his phone buzzed in the cup holder. Without taking his eyes off the road, he pressed a button on the steering wheel to activate the speaker. "Yo, who's this?" he asked, his voice light with curiosity. "It's Dwayne," came the deep, unmistakable voice of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. "Where are you at, man? I've been trying to call you for the last hour." Kevin rolled his eyes, a grin spreading across his face. "Dwayne, my man, I've been busy giving the people what they want. Comedy, burgers, and fries. You know how I do." "You're telling me you've been performing at McDonald's?" Dwayne asked, his tone a mix of disbelief and amusement. Kevin chuckled. "You know me. I can't help it. I was just grabbing a bite, but these kids kept staring, and one thing led to another. Next thing you know, boom! Hart hits the golden arches." Dwayne laughed, a deep rumble that filled the car. "Only you, Kev. Only you." "I know, right?" Kevin said, pulling into his driveway. His home stood before him, a sleek, modern masterpiece of glass and steel. "But hey, don't act like you're surprised. This is just another day in the life of Kevin Hart." As he stepped out of the car, the cool night air greeted him. He glanced up at the sky, the stars faint against the city's glow. For a moment, he felt a quiet sense of gratitude, the kind that sneaks up on you when you least expect it. Inside, his house was quiet, a peaceful contrast to the energy of the evening. He set the McDonald's bag with the extra apple pie on the kitchen counter, figuring he'd save it for later. But just as he was about to head to bed, his phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from his best friend and trainer, Boss. "Boss, yo, I saw that McDonald's stunt on Instagram. You better be ready to work extra hard tomorrow." Kevin laughed out loud, shaking his head. Of course, someone had recorded the whole thing and posted it online. It wasn't the first time something like this had happened, and it wouldn't be the last. His fans loved to share these spontaneous moments, and honestly, Kevin loved it too. It reminded him that no matter how big he got, he was still just a guy who loved making people laugh. The next morning, Kevin woke up to his phone buzzing non-stop. Texts, notifications, and missed calls flooded his screen. He groaned, rubbing his eyes, and reached for his phone. Social media had exploded overnight, with hashtags like #KevinHartAtMcDonald's and #ComedyOnTheGo trending on Twitter. Clips of his impromptu stand-up were everywhere, and fans were raving about how down-to-earth he was. He scrolled through the comments, his smile growing with each one. At Fangirl101, "This is why we love Kevin Hart. He keeps it real no matter where he is." At Burger King Stan, "Imagine going to McDonald's for nuggets and getting a free comedy show. Iconic." At Laugh with Kev, Kevin Hart is proof that laughter can happen anywhere. What a legend. Kevin couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Moments like these made all the hustle and hard work worth it. He got out of bed, threw on his workout clothes, and headed to his home gym, where Boss was already waiting. "You're late," Boss said, arms crossed. His expression was stern, but there was a playful glint in his eye. Kevin rolled his eyes. "Man, I'm still recovering from my McDonald's tour. You saw the footage. It was legendary." Boss chuckled. Yeah, now drop and gimme 50. Kevin groaned but complied, dropping to the floor for push-ups. As he worked through his routine, the events of the previous night played over in his mind. The joy on the faces of the people at McDonald's, the way laughter had filled the room. It reminded him why he'd chosen this path in the first place. After the workout, Kevin grabbed his phone and made a quick call to his team. "All right, listen up," he said as they answered. "We need to capitalize on this McDonald's thing. Let's do something fun, something unexpected. Maybe a pop-up comedy tour at fast food joints across the country. Call it Hart and Fries. What do you think?" The team was instantly on board, throwing out ideas and brainstorming logistics. Kevin could feel the excitement building, his creative wheels turning. He loved coming up with wild outside-the-box ideas and then making them a reality. That's what kept life interesting. Over the next few weeks, Kevin's idea began to take shape. He and his team planned a surprise tour, with stops at fast food restaurants in cities across the country. The concept was simple. Kevin would show up unannounced, grab a meal, and perform a quick set for whoever happened to be there. It was the kind of grassroots, spontaneous connection that Kevin thrived on. The first stop on the tour was a small-town Wendy's in Texas. Kevin arrived incognito, wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, but it wasn't long before people started recognizing him. As word spread, more and more customers showed up, and by the time he stepped up to perform, the restaurant was packed. "Y'all ready for some laughs?" Kevin shouted, his voice cutting through the excited chatter. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Kevin launched into a set about the quirks of fast food, the strange names for menu items, the impossible-to-open ketchup packets, and of course, the universal struggle of finding a working ice cream machine. From Texas, the tour moved to a Burger King in Chicago, then a Taco Bell in Atlanta, and finally a Chick-fil-A in New York City. Each stop brought new adventures, new challenges, and new opportunities to connect with fans. Kevin's social media exploded with videos and photos from the tour, and the hashtag #HeartandFries became a viral sensation. Through it all, Kevin remained grounded, fueled by the joy of making people laugh. At one point during the tour, he found himself sitting in a quiet corner of a busy In-N-Out burger, reflecting on how far he'd come. From a kid with big dreams in Philadelphia to a global comedy icon, his journey had been anything but ordinary. And yet, it was moments like these, sharing laughter over a simple meal, that reminded him of his roots. As the tour wrapped up, Kevin felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He'd always believed that comedy had the power to bring people together, to break down barriers and create moments of pure, unfiltered joy. And over the course of the Hart and Fries tour, he'd seen that power in action, again and again. Back in Los Angeles, Kevin took a moment to decompress, sitting on the balcony of his home as the sun set over the city. His phone buzzed with a new message, this time from his daughter, Heaven. "Heaven, saw your tour online. Pretty cool, Dad, but you still owe me fries from last week." Kevin laughed, shaking his head. "Can't escape the fry debt," he muttered, typing a quick reply. "Kevin, you got it, kiddo. Next time, fries on me." As he set the phone down, Kevin couldn't help but smile. Life was hectic, unpredictable, and sometimes downright exhausting. But it was also beautiful, filled with moments of laughter, connection, and love. And for Kevin Hart, that was all he could ever ask for. Kevin Hart's Hart and Fries tour had been a whirlwind success, sparking waves of laughter and excitement in every city it touched. But as much as he loved the adrenaline rush of surprise performances, he knew that the heart of the experience was the connection he'd built with everyday people. Laughter, after all, was the great equalizer. Even with his fame, Kevin cherished those moments when he could step out of the Hollywood spotlight and just be himself. A man cracking jokes, enjoying fast food, and sharing joy with strangers. Returning to his home in Los Angeles after the tour, Kevin felt a renewed sense of purpose. The buzz from the tour had barely subsided when his team approached him with a new idea. "Kev," his manager Dave said during a meeting at the office, "social media is going crazy over this tour. People are already asking when you're going to do it again. But here's the thing. What if we turn this into something bigger?" Kevin raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Bigger? What do you have in mind?" Dave leaned forward, excitement in his voice. "A documentary! We could show everything, from the behind-the-scenes planning to the reactions of fans, the laughter, and even the mishaps along the way. It's not just about the comedy, it's about the connection. People love seeing the real Kevin Hart." Kevin rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "A documentary, huh? Like Kevin Hart meets the people kind of vibe?" "Exactly," Dave said. "You've already got the footage from the tour. We can expand on it. Show your prep, the travel, your reflections, maybe even interviews with the fans you met. It's authentic, and that's what people love about you." Kevin was quiet for a moment, picturing the possibilities. He could already see the montage. Clips of him joking with kids in a Wendy's, taking selfies with wide-eyed fans, and even the behind-the-scenes chaos of navigating crowded restaurants. But it wasn't just about showcasing his humor. It was about showing the humanity behind the laughs. "All right," Kevin said finally, a grin spreading across his face. "Let's do it. But if we're gonna do this, we're going all in. I want it to be raw, real, and funny as hell." With that, the wheels were set in motion. Kevin and his team dove headfirst into production, poring over hours of footage from the tour. They interviewed fans, restaurant staff, and even a few unsuspecting customers who'd found themselves in the middle of a surprise Kevin Hart performance. The stories they uncovered were as heartwarming as they were hilarious. One woman in Chicago recounted how she'd been having the worst day of her life when Kevin showed up at her local Burger King. "I just lost my job," she said, tears in her eyes. "I was feeling so low, like nothing was going right. Then out of nowhere, here comes Kevin Hart, making jokes about Whoppers and napkins. For the first time in weeks, I laughed. It reminded me that even in tough times, there's always something to smile about." Another memorable moment came from a teenage boy in Atlanta who'd attended the Taco Bell stop with his grandmother. "My grandma's a huge Kevin Hart fan," the boy said, grinning. "When he started joking about how confusing the Taco Bell menu is, she laughed so hard she almost dropped her taco. That's a memory I'll never forget." As Kevin watched the interviews and relived the tour through the raw footage, he felt deeply moved. These weren't just fleeting encounters. They were moments that stuck with people, brightening their days and creating lasting memories. And in turn, they reminded Kevin of why he started doing comedy in the first place. The documentary, titled Hart and Fries Serving Up Laughter, quickly took shape. It wasn't just a film about a celebrity making people laugh. It was a love letter to the art of comedy, the power of connection, and the simple joy of sharing a meal with strangers. The production team worked tirelessly to edit the footage, weaving together the humor, heart, and behind-the-scenes chaos into a compelling narrative. When the documentary was finally released on a major streaming platform, it became an instant hit. Fans praised its authenticity, with many saying it felt like they were right there alongside Kevin in each restaurant. Critics lauded the film for its blend of humor and heart, calling it a refreshing reminder of the power of human connection in an increasingly digital world. One particular scene struck a chord with viewers. It showed Kevin sitting in an empty McDonald's late at night, reflecting on his journey. "You know," he said, his voice soft but steady, "life moves so fast sometimes you forget to stop and appreciate the little things. A laugh, a smile, a shared moment over a burger and fries. That's what it's all about. That's what makes life beautiful." The documentary's success opened up even more opportunities for Kevin. He was invited to speak at schools, community centers, and even corporate events about the importance of humor and connection. He embraced these opportunities wholeheartedly, sharing his experiences and encouraging others to find joy in the everyday. But Kevin wasn't content to stop there. Inspired by the stories he'd heard during the tour, he launched a charitable initiative called Laughs on Us. The program aimed to bring comedy and joy to underprivileged communities, funding stand-up shows, workshops, and even surprise visits to local fast food joints. "Because everyone deserves a reason to laugh," Kevin explained during the launch event. "No matter who you are or where you come from, laughter is for everyone." The initiative quickly gained traction, with comedians from all over the country volunteering their time and talent. Kevin himself made surprise appearances at several events, delighting audiences and proving once again that his heart was as big as his sense of humor. As the years passed, Kevin's legacy continued to grow. He remained a beloved figure in the world of comedy, but it was his ability to connect with people on a deeper level that truly set him apart. Whether he was performing in sold-out arenas, cracking jokes at a fast food counter, or simply sharing a moment of reflection on film, Kevin Hart's message was clear. Laughter is a gift, and the more you share it, the richer life becomes. One quiet evening, long after the frenzy of the Hart and Fries tour had faded, Kevin found himself back at a McDonald's, sitting alone in a booth with a Big Mac and fries. The restaurant was nearly empty, the hum of the soda machine the only sound. As he dipped a fry into ketchup, he smiled to himself, remembering the whirlwind of the past few years. In that moment, Kevin felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for his success, but for the journey, the people, and the countless laughs along the way. He realized that no matter where life took him, whether it was the bright lights of Hollywood or the quiet corners of a fast food joint, he'd always find joy in the simple things. And that, he knew, was the true secret to happiness. As he took another bite of his burger, a young boy walked up to his table clutching a Happy Meal. "Excuse me," the boy said shyly. "Are you Kevin Hart?" Kevin looked up, a warm smile spreading across his face. "That depends," he said, leaning in conspiratorially. "Are you ready to laugh?" The boy's eyes lit up and Kevin knew he'd just made another memory. One more small moment in a lifetime of sharing joy. And as the laughter filled the quiet restaurant, Kevin Hart knew that no matter how big the world got, he'd always have room for the little things that made it special. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Kevin Hart's reaction to the boy's whispers? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.